Welcome to episode number 25 of Falcon Focus and our 13th episode here in semester number 2. My name is Matt Mendel, and on today's edition, in segment number 2, we'll talk with the women's volleyball assistant coach and mental wellness coach here on campus, that being Jeremy Schumacher. But at first, we talk women's golf with senior Amy Carpenter. And I want to start there because when you look at the breakdown of the women's golf roster, you're the only senior.
Yep.
Is that odd at all? Is that taking some getting used to?
It has. We started with 3 my freshman year, and then we dwindled to 2, and now I'm the Lone Ranger. And we had a late edition junior, which has helped the upperclassmen, but it's a very young team for sure.
Yeah, and when you break it down and go back to that 2019-20 school year, you're one of only 2 returnees from that squad from a season ago. How have the newcomers fit in?
They fit in pretty well. The additions of the 4 freshmen have helped boost the team power back up because we were dwindling down very quickly, and so that those freshmen helped to get our numbers back up.
And we'll talk about the breakdown of the schedule because, like tennis, golf, very unique in the sense that it's pretty much 2 seasons within one. As you have the fall, you have a break in the winter, and then back at it here in the springtime. But regardless of the end results, have you been pleased? Have you seen progress? I mean, I guess how would you kind of summarize the way this season's played out so far?
I think it's gone great for me personally. I really enjoyed our home meets that we had because I had never had a home meet prior to this season. So the addition of those home meets really, I felt helped the morale of the whole team because we were kind of down that we weren't going to play in these big tournaments, but those home tournaments really helped build us up.
Well, you kind of touched on it, but okay, let's drag it out a little bit more. Okay, you talked about your individual play. What were your goals coming in, and have you exceeded those goals so far?
Yeah, my long-term goal is to place 10th in conference, and the working towards that goal this season, I feel like I can do it, hopefully. But the goal, I've done better than I thought I was going to do.
Well, in this past weekend, you're coming off an 8th place finish. You shot 90 at the Marion Invitational. I guess when you look back at Saturday, what was the key to your performance?
We actually played as a team on Saturday, which helped build us back up. We like to stick as a team opposed to playing with other people, so that really helped us play better, was the idea that we were all playing together.
So let's break down the whole, the way the schedule plays out in golf because, as mentioned, okay, you started off in the fall, then you get a winter break, then back up again here this last month or so through the rest of the spring. What do you do during those winter months? Is there any golf activity involved?
Not really. We stop our season and then we start back up in the beginning of March. And so, I mean, we can go practice, but it's not required or anything. And I mean, I try to get out there a couple times in the winter, but it's so hard because it's an outdoor sport and you can go in and hit against the wall, but you're not getting any feedback on what your ball flights is or anything. So it's kind of difficult, but getting back out there is the best part.
But are you able to pretty much pick up where you left off, or does it take some time getting back into rhythm?
I'm able to surprisingly pick up where I left off, which everyone doesn't understand how I do it. But
No
somehow,
kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, but do you enjoy that break? Is it welcome after you go through the fall? Do you need that kind of mental break and then pick it back up, or in an ideal situation, would you play all the way through?
I like the break because I get kind of burnt out towards the end, and so I like that I have the beginning season or the first season and the second season together. That makes I enjoy it, and we live in Wisconsin, so the weather doesn't help us, so I enjoy that break. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you about the weather, okay? So typically in the fall, you go from nice temperatures to kind of miserable by the end of the fall. You pick that back up in the spring, and hopefully by the end, it starts to get nice again.
Yep.
How does that play into your performances?
When it gets colder, I struggle, and it's just that I feel everyone kind of struggles. If it's raining, it's even colder, and it's just that.
Is that a mental thing?
Yeah, it's for sure mental. I mean, it was kind of raining on Saturday. It was spitting at us, and the addition when it stopped, our game went back up. So it's just you have to flip that switch in your head, and you just have to go with it, and you have to try your best.
What I think is crazy, too, is you look at this spring, and knock on wood so far, it has been a very nice spring and above average temperature-wise. Wind-wise, though, it has been a very windy spring. Have you noticed that at all out in the links?
Yes, and that has factored into my game, and you have to think about every shot, which you are supposed to do every time, but the addition of that wind, you have to think if you want to club up, club down, like you have to take into that. I was throwing lots of grass in the last couple of rounds because you never know, and the wind changes so quickly that you have to really think about it.
I'm always intrigued by the sport of golf and the preparation aspect. And okay, you talk about weather. I mean, that's one thing that factors in that you really can't plan for until the day of because weather's constantly changing. How about from a course standpoint? I know I've talked to other golfers about this in the past, and I'm curious to get your perspective, especially if you play a course you're not familiar with. How do you go about maybe in the days leading up to preparing for maybe what to anticipate or expect?
I talk to other people who have played it. Like a lot of the freshmen have been asking me, like, "Oh, how does this course play? Like, what does this hole look like when we're out there, as well as like the days leading up to it?" And we're like, "Oh, be mindful of hole 5. It does this." And so just the idea that someone else has played it and what their feelings are on it. I mean, you can look up the courses, but I don't get much from a picture because it's only a picture, and I like to hear like personal experiences about the holes.
We'll talk more about golf courses in a minute because I want to get your thoughts on maybe your favorite course you've played on and maybe do you have a dream course somewhere down the road you'd like to play maybe, after your college career, maybe somewhere just, for fun. But first I want to get into how you got into the sport. So what is your earliest memory of golf? Why golf?
I started golfing in sophomore year of high school, actually. I played volleyball freshman year, and then I decided when my family was on vacation in New York to be like, hey, I'm going to play golf. And so we bought some golf shoes in New York, and I tried out the next week, and here I am.
Did you have any prior golf experience?
No,
So
no one in my family really golfed. I just kind of decided that I was going to golf.
Just out of the blue.
Yep.
I mean, any miniature golf experience, anything?
A little, but not much.
So I mean, what was it about the sport that just intrigued you?
I liked the outdoors, and I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, I mean, I didn't really have any friends that were on the team, and I was like, okay, I'm going to play golf because I wanted to play a sport in high school, and so I chose golf, and now I'm here.
So how long did it take you to, kind of grasp, the swing, to just, get the basics down?
I mean, I played softball, like, growing up my whole life, and so I just engineered my softball swing into a golf swing and was able to do it, and I've competed at varsity conference my sophomore year of high school in golf.
Did you play? I know you played softball in high school, but did they overlap at all? Did you play golf and softball in the same years at all, or did you give up softball together and focus on golf?
I played golf and softball in the same years. I've played 5 different sports in high school, so I just was playing all the sports.
Well, we're going to get to that too because I'm curious about the one sport, bowling, which is not something you often see on someone's bio. But the reason I bring it up is because you mentioned the swing.
Yeah.
I mean, does that start to become, I don't want to say a challenge, but I mean, mentally, you got to be tough okay, what club am I swinging? Am I swinging a bat? Am I swinging a golf club?
Yep.
And just making sure that you're doing the right thing.
Yep.
Does that, start to play with you a little bit?
Not really, because in high school you played golf and then you had the whole winter to play a different sport or whatever, and then you played softball. So like it didn't really affect me, and I have since stopped playing softball, so I don't have to think about that anymore. So yeah, it wasn't that difficult because of the winter break. Like every break you can change it up.
So up to date, going back throughout your time, going back to your sophomore year in high school, playing the sport of golf, what highlights, what memories maybe stand out? What if you had to point at one thing right now and say, you know what, that was great?
I love playing the championship courses. So I've played TPC out in Iowa, and then it's just like the addition of Medina out by my house. I played that in high school, and just like seeing it on TV and then seeing me actually being able to play it I've really enjoyed that.
Well, that leads me into my next question. What is maybe your favorite course if you had to look back and say, you know what, I love playing there? What would it be?
Probably TPC, because I've played there twice, like 2 different tournaments there, and so like I know how I played the first tournament, and then the second tournament this season I was able to improve on my score. So probably that, and knowing the course and seeing it on TV. I just think it's so cool.
Is there a course you would love to play someday?
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, probably where the Masters is played. So yeah.
Mention other sports you've played in high school, and bowling is the one that, like I said, comes to mind. Obviously, basketball, softball. You talked about volleyball, some of their sports you've played at the high school level. But I bring up bowling because it's not one you often see on anybody's bio. So I'm curious again, like golf, how did you get involved in the sport of bowling? Do you remember your highest score?
I do not, but my family is a family of bowlers.
Okay.
My dad coached when I was playing in high school, the bowling team. My grandma coached, my grandpa coached. So it was just the pattern. I played basketball the first 2 years, and I was like, I don't like this anymore. So then I was like, I'm gonna go join my family out on the bowling lanes. So yeah, it was just, I remember bowling with my family from a very young age, and I mean, I think my highest score was like 270, and my dad was very happy with that one.
Oh, I'm sure, absolutely. Maybe a couple of turkeys in there for all I
Exactly.
know. But
Yep.
what I get blown away by, and I talk to a number of athletes and ask
Yep.
the same question, is how did you end up at Concordia? And obviously for you with all these different sports, you're from Illinois. How did you get across the border? And was it always the goal to play, I guess, golf? Once you started to master at the high school level, did you want to play at this next level?
Yeah, I picked Concordia because of my major, communication sciences. There was not many places have that major,
Hmm.
and so I was like, okay, well, I think I'm gonna come here. And then I was like, what sport can I play here? Like, I can't just not play any sports because I played so many in high school that I was like, what sport fits me best? And I liked that golf had the fall and the spring season, so I was getting 2 seasons for the price of one. And so I picked golf and stuck with it.
Well, you mentioned earlier one of your goals, you want to be in that top 10 finish in the NAC championship, which is coming up, the nice 3-day event coming up on April 30th through May 2nd in Racine. Now, back in 2018-19, you were all conferences, finished ninth place in the NAC championships that school year. What are those 3 days like? Because I have to imagine that you have to have a short, memory, because if things go well or wrong one day,
Yep.
guess what? You have another day to have to turn it back around. You can't remember what happened that day.
Exactly. You think of that hole and then you forget it. You can't really dwell on your good shots or your bad shots. You just got to keep chugging along. So yeah, it's fun.
And prior to, you guys will be in Janesville, Wisconsin quite a bit these next couple of weekends, including Friday, Saturday, Whitewater Invite. That's what's up next for women's golf. I'll leave you with this, and I ask all seniors that are, maybe on their way out from a college standpoint. You mentioned your major, okay, communication, science, and disorder, which I'll be honest, I have no clue what that means. So please enlighten me on what that major entails, and what do you hope to do with it one day?
It's like the major previous to speech language pathology, and so I hope to become a speech language pathologist assistant
Okay.
and get some experience, and then figure out what's going on after that. I hope to do it within the school setting opposed to the medical setting. But this major you can do pretty much anywhere, and you can find something to do. So which is exciting for me.
Yeah, I don't think they had that major when I was here, and if they did, I didn't know anything about it. But Amy, thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate it. Best
Thank
of
you.
luck the rest of this season
Thank you.
and with graduation. And when we come back, we'll talk with women's volleyball assistant coach and mental wellness coach Jeremy Schumacher as we continue on this week's edition of Falcon Focus.
You know, God never intended for us to live a comfortable life. He created us to go outside our comfort zones, to use our gifts and talents in the service of others, to live a you-first life in a me-first world. At Concordia University, it's our mission to prepare you for that path, so that you stand apart from the crowd and live a life that's actually uncommon. Concordia University. Live uncommon.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Falcon Focus, and now on to segment number 2, and we talk with women's volleyball assistant coach and mental wellness coach, that being Jeremy Schumacher. And on top of that, he's also the host of the Sports Psych podcast. You can find those also at cuwfalcons.com. And I want to begin just talking about the mental wellness coach aspect of things, because you're starting to see more of that type of role pop up in various athletic departments around the country, and maybe in different titles, but, all dealing with some of the same, mental wellness and mental health. So I guess my question for you to start things off is, how did you become the athletic department's mental wellness coach?
Sure. Well, my background is in therapy. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. So before coming to Concordia, even while I was started at Concordia as the assistant volleyball coach, when that was still just a part-time role, I was doing therapy in private practice at a Christian counseling place in Brookfield. So that's my bread and butter. That's my background. That's what I went to school for. My graduate degree, postgraduate degree, all that stuff is in therapy. So volleyball was kind of always a fun side thing I did.
Sure.
And the way it worked out was the position opened here, and I jumped on the volleyball aspect of it. And then when we added the mental health component, it was a very natural fit for me.
So when you bring up, okay, I'm the mental wellness coach, what other responsibilities that come with that position?
On our campus, a little bit of everything. So it's a lot of individual counseling right now for athletic body our size. We have 700, 800 student athletes. So they're dealing with a lot of stuff. The trends in mental health haven't been positive. So we've been expecting each freshman class to almost come in with more problems than the previous.
Sure.
And then with COVID hitting, it's going to spike in a major way. So it's a lot of individual counseling. But this year I've had the opportunity to do a lot more and branch out, connect with other groups on campus, and tap into the resources that they have a little bit. And we did a task force this year. We did a mental health training for the captains on campus with the various sports teams. I think we had 29 captains, 29 different programs represented at that training. So I've gotten to do a lot more this year and build it and expand it to a way where we have a bigger presence on campus, and we're starting to do some prevention work, which is really where we need to be. We need to be able to get out in front of it, not just respond to a crisis as it comes up, but hopefully be preventing some of those crises.
Well, let me ask you, and let's expand on that a little bit, because, okay, prior to COVID-19, what were some of the struggles, maybe some of the issues you saw popping up on a more regular basis, and maybe how has that changed since the
Sure.
pandemic?
Yeah. I say normal mental health stuff, but as a therapist, that probably means something different to me. You're dealing with the anxiety, you're dealing with depression, freshmen transitioning to college, maybe first time being away from home, family issues, that type of stuff, roommate issues, and then the sports component on top of that. So I played volleyball at the University of Minnesota. Been coaching collegiate volleyball for a while. I coached club before that. So then it's sports performance, it's teammate issues, team dynamic type stuff, dealing with playing time issues, a lot of injuries. We have an awesome athletic training department, and they do a lot to keep everybody healthy, but injuries are part of the sport, and dealing with, if you tear your ACL your senior year, what does that mean for you? And so it was a lot of that stuff, which is, I think, probably anywhere. That's normal for any athletic department. And then I think when COVID hit, everything just ratcheted up, the intensity
Sure.
ratcheted up. So a kid who's maybe at a 4 and isn't coming to see me because, they're stressed, they're struggling with stuff, but they've got it handled, they've got enough of their own support system. Now they're in my office because it's too much. There's just too much on their plate. The stress level's too high. They maybe don't have the time or the energy to be doing the self-care that they need to. And so I think for everybody, just the intensity has gone up across the board. And so kids who were doing healthy before are struggling now. Kids who were struggling before are struggling a lot more now.
Let me ask you, okay, going back even a number of years, when you look back at maybe your past and just, starting the topic and educating yourself, how has social media played into mental health? Because it seems like, that's jacked up now to the point
Sure.
where, you look at all the different ways you can, get yourself kind of in trouble thanks to, whether it be Twitter, whether it be any of those other social media type sites.
Right.
That it seems like that's jacked up maybe people's mental health state.
Sure. I'm old, so I was the college group when Facebook became a thing.
I'm with you.
When it was just for college students.
Yep.
So that was me. And then, so my background in marriage and family therapy, I'm super anti social media because doing marriage counseling, the number of affairs that start through Facebook and things like that, I've always kind of stayed away from it and been off of it. And my simplest solution has always been, hey, just don't use it. But at this point, I think it's so prevalent. I think kids are growing up with it. I think it's part of their social life. We can't just cut it out because we don't like it. So I think it's really teaching kids like how to manage that, how to set boundaries around it. When do they want to be on it? What are they following? What are they seeing? There's a lot of stuff on social media now that's really healthy. I mean, you can look at aspects of the body positivity movement. You can look at different mental health support groups that are available through things like that now. So there's the part of the internet that's healthy, and then there's that part of the internet that's not. And so just making sure they're taking in things that are good and uplifting for them and staying away from the stuff that's destructive.
No question, every situation, every struggle is different. One person's problem is not the same as somebody else's. But do you have just generic, advice maybe you have for people that may be struggling a little bit, that ways they can maybe better cope or handle a situation?
Yeah, I mean, for college students, it's almost always sleep more. I do a lot of work with sleep hygiene. Students are, especially our student athletes, they're booked. I mean, from
Sure.
sun up to sundown. So it's one of those things where you got early workouts. You have limited gym access this year, especially. We had teams working out early in the morning. We had teams practicing early in the morning. Some teams are used to that. Some teams are not. So I think sleep's a big thing. Kids will stay up studying late and not realize their brain's not retaining too much, where it'd be better just to go to sleep and let your brain rest and recover. And then I think just self-care. It's not a thing that we teach often enough. It's part of kind of, I think, the work culture we're a part of, and that's in higher education for sure. Of you've got something due, so that takes priority and not taking care of yourself, not realizing that going for a walk around campus is going to be beneficial for you. Taking a 20-minute break here or there is going to be better for your brain than cramming those extra 20 minutes.
Well, you bring up self-care, and I got to venture to guess somewhere in there, too, it's eating habits got to come into play.
Sure.
I would think. And
Yeah.
it's not just the fact, okay, if you eat 3 meals a day, but it's what you're putting in your body that can also affect your mood.
Yeah, food as fuel is how we talk about it in athletics, and making sure you're fueling your body appropriately. I think this year's been hard. I mean, just the restrictions we've had with COVID, things around the CAF. In the coaching role, dealing with our off-campus players who aren't allowed in the CAF this year because of the restrictions we have. So managing some of those things where in a normal year you just do your team meal, and before pregame everybody goes in the CAF and eats, and so it's been managing a lot of that stuff. So I think for as much as we've wanted a return to normal, there's been so many things that are still different. And it's been navigating a lot of that where kids are maybe like, oh, everybody's saying it's normal again, but it's not. Am I doing something wrong? And just acknowledging, no, this isn't normal still. Like, this is still a weird year, still a weird season. There's extra stuff we have to deal with.
Do you stress, with any student athlete, whether you're having a problem or not, the importance of having a support group, having people you could potentially turn to if you have a problem, people you trust that you can talk to, as opposed to dealing with something by yourself?
Yeah, for sure. That social support is huge. 18 to 22-year-olds really crave peer-to-peer interactions. So as much as you hope the kid's coming from a good family background, has family support, what their brain really wants is that peer-to-peer interaction. So that's part of why we did the captain's training this year, wanting our captains to have a little bit more confidence in dealing with some of this stuff. Not that they're amateur therapists, but that they know, here are the resources, here are the referrals, here's what I should be looking out for and concerned with, and just trying to give kids the confidence to be able to talk about it. I think that's the biggest thing, is this fear of you're the only person dealing with this, and they never are. Anxiety, depression are super common. Mental health issues are up around 70% right now for the average college student. So it's one of those things that's very common, but until you start talking about it, you don't realize it. You're not in touch with that support. And so that's kind of the hardest first step, is getting kids to open up about it. And usually it's their inner circle of friends that they open up to first, and then kind of it gets better and they're more comfortable talking about it. And then you can talk to your team about it, and you get more and more support, and it gets easier to deal with.
Well, let me ask you your opinion. Obviously mental illness is no joke, and you mentioned some of the numbers, and it's staggering. It's not just, college athletes, but it's, it's younger kids, it's us. It's adults. It's and beyond. Are we doing enough in this country? Are we starting to make it, are we starting to become more aware of the situation? Are we starting to provide more resources than, say, a decade ago, or do we have a long ways to go?
It is certainly better than it was, but we still have a long way to go. I think it's one of those things where the decision makers and the higher ups at college campuses, at workplaces in our country in general are becoming more aware of it, but it's at crisis level already. And
Sure.
So I think it's one of those things where it's constantly playing catch up. It needs more resources. It needs more time. And so it's one of those things where it's constantly playing catch up. It's better than it was, but it's still behind.
How about for you? Where do you turn to stay upbeat, to get a little pick-me-up? Because I have to believe in your role that sometimes, you're hearing about this person's problem, that person's problem. It can be hard to take all that in and have to be the constant, pick-me-up and upbeat individual. So where do you go for a little relief?
Yeah, I think I have a good support system myself. My wife's awesome. I have a little boy, Silas, who's 3 years old, who's happy every time he sees me. So that makes it easy to go home at the end of the stressful day and get that pickup. But volleyball's been a huge thing for me. It's just nice to get in the gym and get some physical activity at the end of my day. Hit a ball pretty hard every once in a while is good. So I have a lot of those habits. Self-care has been a thing that's been ingrained in me, doing therapy and being aware of secondary stressors and things like that. So I've got my habits. I'm competitive, so I like to go home and play some ping pong, or I like to do something. I like my drive home to get the windows down and
Sure.
the music up. So I have all these little ways where I kind of get that de-stress in throughout the course of my day.
Well, mention you're a jack of all trades, and one of your other, side jobs, if you will, here on campus is you're the host of the Sports Psych podcast. And mention you can find the archives, even the new episodes coming up at cwfalcons.com. How did that podcast come about? And I guess, when you put this together, what was the goal? What are you aiming to get out of this podcast?
Yeah, it was a thing that's been bounced around for a couple of years, and we just kind of never pulled the trigger on it. I think it was one of those things where we wanted another venue to talk about mental health. We wanted a way to get it out to the student population that was accessible to them, and I think podcasts are certainly more popular and continue to rise in popularity. So that format, I think, is very approachable to student athletes. And then when COVID hit, I think it was a way to just kind of say, like, okay, how do we still get athletes out there? How do we get our fans engaged? How can we keep people up with the athletics program, even though we're not having actual competitions or limited competitions? And so I think it was just kind of the timing worked out where it was like, okay, let's make this a priority now. It's been on my mind for a while. It had been on Jeremy Crawford's mind. Steve Schauer, even before that, had bounced around the ideas. So it was one of those things where the idea had always been there. The timing hadn't really worked out. And so it's one of those things where, yeah, let's prioritize this. We need the mental health resources. We need to talk about it. Everybody's struggling right now when COVID hit. So it was one of those things where it's just it became the right time to make it a priority.
Are you finding in that environment, I know you touched on this a little bit in one of the earlier answers, but are you finding student athletes are willing to open up and talk, or does it still, kind of pulling teeth?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think the student athletes are more comfortable talking about mental health in general. I think there's still a hesitancy of how much they're supposed to share or what's right or wrong to share. And those aren't really concepts that I use. I think it's just been really helpful for the student athletes to have an opportunity to talk like the mental part of the game. Sometimes it's mental health specific. Sometimes it's just merely sports performance and how they deal with things out on the court. So it's been a really good thing. I'm kind of always surprised. I'll get emails here or there with people who want to help out with it or people who want to be on it or people who really liked an episode. So again, I think it's that format's appealing to them and it's reached that wider base. So whoever we can reach and talk about mental health and normalize some of the things that are going on in mental health, that's a big win for us.
So what's your favorite part about hosting that podcast?
I think it's always interesting. I get to work with this is my third year doing the mental health stuff, and I think I've worked with almost every single sport. I still got to get shooting sports somehow. But I think I've gotten to work with a student athlete from every single sport except for that now. So it's just been cool. It's been expansive. It's not all, I don't want to say doom and gloom with mental health, but some of it's just the fun stuff, getting to talk to people before a tournament comes up. I didn't host this episode. Kyle Fuller, who's a lacrosse player and is also on our mental health task force, he hosted an episode with an ACH hockey player, and they're coming up with their tournament. So just kind of getting another venue to promote and talk about how'd you guys get through the season, how'd you manage all the weird things with COVID and get to a point where you're in a national tournament type setting. So I think it's been really fun just for that aspect to be able to highlight some of the good stuff that's going on campus and not just, hey, everybody's mental health is trash this year and we really got to fix it. So it's been balancing some of the positives.
Now let's transition. You speak of tournament. Let's talk women's volleyball because the NAC tournament will begin on Thursday, and they break it down in divisions. So it's a North Division, South Division tournament. In the North, the Falcons will be the number 1 seed, welcoming in Edgewood at 7 p.m. on Thursday. Edgewood will be the number 4 seed. It'll be meeting number 4 between the Falcons and Eagles, and Concordia has won the previous 3. But let's start by talking about how the regular season wrapped up. And right now, the Falcons with 11 victories and a couple of defeats end up finishing 9-1 in the NAC. Again, good for first place in the North Division to bring home that regular season championship. But you guys had a kind of a unique weekend because besides conference play, got the opportunity to go to Indy on Friday and Saturday for the AVCA Division III Championship Tournament. And this kind of popped up, I know, a few weeks ago, but getting to play some good teams from around the area in the Midwest. I guess what did you see from that tournament? I guess what did you learn about your team from playing that kind of competition?
Yeah, I think it was really good. I think it was tough. It was a quick turnaround from when the tournament got announced to getting into it, to getting our schedule, to travel. It was a long trip down there. We hit traffic, we hit road construction, a little bit of everything. So, the team came out a little slow. We were playing Carthage, who's the number 4 in the country right now. So, but we battled, and I think that was big for us. It showed some of the things that we need to work on and some of the things that we need to focus on in this week of practice before the tournament starts, but also that we can hang with those teams. That's where our program's at. That's where the players are at. That we took a set. Nobody swept us this weekend. We went to 5 a couple times. So it was one of those things where even in defeat, we're hanging with these teams. There are things that we're doing well, and we want to highlight those things and acknowledge that we're doing some things well, and then there are some things that need to get worked on. And so it was just an opportunity for us to play some different competition, some teams that we don't normally get to play from out east that gave us a little bit different look and got to learn some things. And we're really big on let's acknowledge the positives, but let's also work on the things that need to be improved.
How excited was the team to get that opportunity? Again, bond, you finally get a road trip, so to speak, where you get to be together on the road for a couple of days versus back and forth. And, again, just enjoying each other's company during what's been a very unique season.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to travel. Different than normal. Normally we like to try and find a nice sit-down restaurant and have a nice meal together. And with COVID, those things just weren't possible. But we sat in the hotel courtyard and ate outside as a team. And we found some ways around some of those things. Not around them, but to work with them.
Sure.
And still get that team bonding aspect. So I think the team enjoyed it. I think it was good for them. I think knowing we were playing on Sunday, we played back-to-back matches on Friday, back-to-back matches on Saturday, and then drove home and then to play Sunday. So I think there was we were tired. We were a little sore.
I bet.
But I think, again, it was good to say, we got to struggle through some of this stuff and work. And I think that struggle as a team is really helpful and brings us together as we get ready for the tournament.
Let's touch on Sunday. It was a sweep of Marion, winning 3-0 in match 1 and then 3-1 in match 2. Number of players stepped up, but how's the team, I guess, in your opinion, responded? I know there was some question, okay, you're playing the same conference team back-to-back. That's the way the schedule's going to play out this season, the doubleheaders. And I know the teams have played, doubleheaders in the past in non-conference environments, but a little bit different now with more on the line. How do you feel the teams the Falcons have responded, at least in these conference doubleheader situations?
Yeah, I think they've done a really good job. We have a couple players I'll shout out, Macy Cartfinger and Ella Kabish, who are bouncing around, playing some different positions, different sets. We need to tap into our depth a little bit, which has been nice, get players some different opportunities. We have a really competitive gym, so both sides of the net in practice are competing. There's not one side that's always winning every drill. We don't have a starter side and a non-starter side. It's competition always, so it's really great that we have that depth and we've been able to rotate people through. I think our program's maybe a little deeper than some of our other conference opponents where our lineups look a lot different from game to game. And we're able to move people around, and they're excelling wherever we're putting them. So it's really good to see. It's really helpful moving forward, knowing we have some flexibility with recruiting, we have some flexibility with what we want to do with our lineup, and people just owning it. Whether you're playing middle, you're playing outside, you're playing right side, wherever you're at, you're going to just go out there and do your best. And so it's been really fun to see from our players.
Well, I think it's fair to say you look at that setter spot and a lot of depth there, and you look at, certainly Sierra Lee, Mackenzie Verts, Christina Stinson, one of the seniors from day one now that was honored after on senior day on Sunday. But even some of the newcomers have gotten an opportunity to be out there in that setter role. You have, from an attack standpoint, Sophia Collins, Jenna Chaussee. From a defensive standpoint, Madeline Alton's done a great job at libero. McKenna Neagle, when it comes to the block. Hannah Himmelman has stepped up in her sophomore year. I mean, overall, it just seems like in what has been a unique season, these players have been able to rise to the challenge after essentially just practicing all fall long. Yeah. Then when the season finally, got underway, they were ready to go.
Yeah. And I think it's been really nice. We have some big personalities on our team, and seeing that junior class step up. Sophia, I think, has taken a huge leap this year. She's kind of become just that go-to hitter in a situation where you need a point. She's going to put the ball away. Hannah's having a phenomenal season. She's super quiet. She just does all the work, and she's not that loud, boisterous middle necessarily,
sure.
But she's top 5 in conference in hitting percentage right now. She's top 5 in blocking right now, and you can't ask for any more in the middle that you're top 5 in hitting and blocking. So just people putting in the work. We see them in the weight room. We see them doing the off-season workouts. They worked so hard in the fall doing things to stay healthy, stay fit, and come in and be in a good place. So it's nice to see all that work pay off.
Let me wrap it up by getting your thoughts now on the matchup on Thursday. We mentioned Edgewood will be inside the John Book Fieldhouse, 7 o'clock. They will serve up set 1 of the best of 5, and you've seen Edgewood now 3 prior times, able to sweep them once here, and then a couple of 4-set wins at the Edge Dome in Madison. I guess what do you kind of anticipate coming up Thursday? And I guess how's the team approaching? It is kind of, again, it's a NAC North Division tournament, but still a championship to be played for. And If you win Thursday, you play Sunday against either Lakeland or Wisconsin Lutheran.
Yeah, it's kind of a continuation where we've done the work. We're happy to be playing at home. We like the environment here. We like having our fans here. I think we play better here. We like to defend our house. So I think it's something where we acknowledge, again, the positive. We've done the work all season to get this one spot, but the work's not done. And so we got to keep going and keep building. We had a lot of competition this weekend. We have good film. We know what our practice plans are going to look like, the things that we need to improve on. And then hopefully we're just gelled and ready to go by Thursday. They got a day off yesterday. They probably need another day off. But the way the season works is not going to happen. So it's one of those things where, we're happy with where we're at. We crossed off some goals for our regular season and where we wanted to be. But ultimately it's conference championship is our goal. And so it's to keep moving and come out and perform the way that we know we can.
Looking forward to it, Coach. Appreciate your time here this morning.
Thanks for
and
having me.
all the best with everything. That is Jeremy Schumacher, mental wellness coach, along with his duties as the women's volleyball assistant. We thank women's golfer Amy Carpenter. Thanks to Sam Dunn behind the scenes. Matt Mental, thanks for joining us. And again, as long as it's safe to do so, we'll join you again next week for Falcon Focus here on CWFalcons.com.